The budget proposal. Move ahead through a few pages of report. It's on page 22 in the handouts. The total proposed budget for 2025 is $214,500. And if the standing rules are adopted as proposed, only line item adjustments are in order, no changes to that total amount since it's based on commitments and projection income that can't easily be changed. Let me pause there and ask if there are any questions you might want to ask about financials tonight. Help you understand the report from last year or next year. Yeah, Jessica is here if you have questions you want to ask her before you leave. Our plan then is to be through that portion at approximately 10:30, and we will take a recess for about 15 minutes and stretch the restrooms. Those coming in person, it was mentioned there's no food service being provided this year, and that includes water and coffee. So we didn't order or purchase any items in the room. So you're welcome to bring a water bottle. There are water fountains and bottle filling stations. They don't want outside drinks in there, but if it's in your own personal bottle, you know, but they just don't want purchase items coming into the conference center. They do have a coffee shop or convenience store. I'm not sure where that's located in the center or how easy it is to get to that, but that is an option.
But would you be able to bring that in?
If it's bought there at the university, yeah, but I'm just not sure where their shop is. They explored opening up a temporary cart for us, but I think they have a football game or other activities going on there, so could bring their mobile purchase. So this is our anticipated timeline. We may not exactly hit that target. We'll see how things are going. Most likely we'll have a hymn just before 10:45 to try to bring everyone back together and finding seats. We'll continue the morning then with reports. This is first will be Linda's report on invitation support ministries, then Wynn's report on camping. And we note that there will be a silent auction set up. So along with the other display tables we have from various ministries, check out the one for youth camp silent auction. That is a good reason to come early. In addition to getting checked in, there'll be several display tables you might want to look at and talk with the presenters. And then we'll move into our standing committees and teams. We have the spectacular delegation, our stewardship team. We have a special presentation from Michigan Solar Faithful, arising out of that work. And the diversity team, and then Samaritas Refugee Foster Care is a partner we've been working with at the Campus Ministry Center in East Lansing. And those reports should take us to our anticipated noon break for lunch. Again, no purchase food brought in. There is the marketplace at Dome, I believe is what it's called, is available to purchase meals, buffet style. It's the campus residential living restaurant. Many people do go down there for lunch. I don't have the price in the slides, but it's a set price per person to go in.
I think it was 13.
It's 13.
13. All right, thank you.
And the food's excellent.
Yeah,
Food's excellent. So it's some recommendations here. So that's our expected 2-hour gap for lunch, whether you eat there or offsite or whatever arrangements you make. Again, we'll gather at 2 o'clock, prayer for peace. If Linda's recommendation is sustained, then we'll have a setting apart prayer for her. Disciples generous response for the youth camp. So if you're not getting a silent auction item, just make a contribution. We would appreciate that. And then we have mission funding presentations. We have our field support minister, Dina DeVormer, provide some updates, and 2 of the generosity ministers, is that the correct title? No. Mission Mission Development.
Minister, yeah, vision development.
Mission Development Ministers, Aaron Cackler and Noel Gaffel will be sharing with us during that time as well. And then we plan to call to order again at 3 o'clock. At that point, the item to consider will be the staff, Mission Center council leaders and other leaders recommended by Linda for next year. Find that list on page 32 in the handouts. And Linda will share a couple of updates she has to that list. Next, we'll hear the reports from our campground boards. And then we'll hear the report from the conference appointed committee from last year. That committee report is on page 36. So this was resolution 2 from last year's conference. It was pending last year along with an amendment, an amendment to the amendment. So all 3 of those motions were referred to the special committee. That committee has met throughout the year to consider that resolution, and its report again is on page 36. The recommendation is to amend that resolution by substituting a different resolution in its place. And so this will leave us an interesting parliamentary situation to work through. So I'll come back to the text, but I think I've got a slide that will show our steps. So what's before you here, and this is in your packet on page 37. This is last year's resolution as it was submitted, just the resolve paragraphs, the whereas are in the packet as well. As it was submitted. The amendment, which was to strike a portion of that resolution and insert a new portion in its place. And the secondary amendment, which was to strike a word from the proposed amendments. And then here on this slide is the new proposed substitute from the committee. Again, just the resolved paragraphs are on the slide. And we'll come back to this text with any questions. I want to walk through the process that will be followed. So at this point, after the committee reports, then resolution 2 from 2023 will come before the body again. That will mean we have 3 motions on the floor from last year's conference: the resolution, the amendment, and the amendment to the amendment. So we need to work backwards. First, debate will be open on the amendment to the amendment. Continue to discuss that. At that time, no amendments are in order because only 2 amendments can be pending at a time. This will just be debate. When the debate ends, we'll vote on the amendment to the amendment. If that amendment to the amendment fails, it goes away, we go back to the primary amendment. If it's adopted, that word primarily is struck from the amendment, we go back to the primary amendment. That's not open for further debate. At this point, could be amended in different ways. When we get to the point of voting on that amendment, it either is adopted or failed. If it's adopted, then the main resolution changes. If it fails, the main resolution is not changed, we go back to the main resolution. At that point, the committee's recommendation to amend by substitution will be moved before the conference. And so on the floor will be a motion to substitute, which is a form of striking and inserting, but it applies to the whole resolution. So instead of striking a sentence or word, you're striking the whole original resolution and proposing to substitute or insert a whole new resolution. The process of substituting opens both of them to amendment at the same time. So the body has a chance to perfect both the original and the substitute. Because when we're done with this process of perfecting both, whatever changes are made to the original will stay if the substitute is defeated. Okay. If the substitute is adopted, then the substitute becomes the motion at that time. So the chair will explain that again, but this time is available to perfect both the original and the substitute with additional amendments if desired. And again, typically, if an amendment fails, it doesn't change the original, or if it's adopted in that process, but the overall substitution fails, the original resolution is still changed. So anything that happens in this period will change either the original or the substitution. To keep that organized, if there are amendments, the chair will first recognize only amendments on the original resolution. So if someone moves to amend, if it's on the original resolution, then that would be in order. The chair would take that. If it's on the substitute, the chair would first ask the body if anyone has an amendment to the original. So to try to keep it organized. So first, any amendments to the original. If there are some, we process those. If there aren't, it's okay. And then if there are any amendments to the proposed substitute, process those. Within those categories, we take any amendments to the resolve paragraphs first, because those are what are actually enacted, and then second to the whereas, it's called the preamble, because that's introductory information. It doesn't actually take any action on behalf of the body. So there is an organization to this. May not have to talk about any of it if there are no amendments. If there are, the chair will ask for them in that order. Once that's done, debate is done, we'll come to a point of voting on substitutions. The body will decide, do you want to strike and insert the substitute or not? That's adopted. We strike the original, put the substitutes in its place, and we continue with debate and a final vote. At that point, the only thing that can be done is to add something additional beyond what was already considered. You can't continue to amend the substitute once it's adopted, unless someone were to reconsider and go through another detailed process. The same to the original. If we're done and the event, the substitute is failed, the original comes back to the floor in whatever form it has at that time. And again, it's already been perfected. The only thing that can be done would be to add something beyond what's already there. If those amendments to add are dealt with, or there are no more, then we take a final vote on either the original or substitute, whichever is before the body, to make that final choice on the resolution. So, lots of options. Confusing when you think of all of it, but the general idea is we've got it all proposed. We'll work backwards, the original resolution. If there are new amendments, those will come to the floor. We'll work backwards on those, forward and backwards, until it's perfected. We get back to the original motion in some form and take that final vote. Questions? Yes.
So, do we get to number 3 no matter what happens to 1 and 2?
Correct. Yes, typically once something's amended, it can be changed, but in the case of a substitute that applies to the full text, it can replace something that's already been changed by an amendment. So whether or not 1 and 2, the pending amendments are adopted or failed, that will change the scope of the original resolution, but it does not affect whether or not the substitute can come to the floor. It will come to the floor however we decide those first 2 amendments.
Definitely needs some coffee. So.
Well, are there any questions on the procedure or the proposals, the original or this proposed substitute that you want to ask this evening? All right, the most important thing then is just to pay attention to the slides as we're talking on each motion, so you can see exactly which question we're focused on, and then listening to when the vote is called and looking at the title of what we are voting on at that time. This is also a good time for me to request that if you have any proposed action, whether they be amendments or other motions that might be in order, to get them to me email is best, that way we can copy and paste them into the slide and have it for everyone to see. So we can take those motions from the floor, but it does take a lot of time if they're just verbally done, and we have to get them entered so everyone online and in person can actually see and read them. Haven't received any yet, but if you do have some, again, send them by email as soon as possible. And if you have any questions about a motion you'd like to make, I'd be glad to help you word that in advance would be best. But also during the conference, feel free to ask your questions, state your idea, and I'll assist you in getting that in a proper form if it is in one. And this is the correct time, so just again, a reminder for Sunday morning then, this will be an open session for those of you online. It's a different Zoom link. It is not restricted to delegates. Anyone can join on Zoom. We won't have a Facebook live stream, just be open for everyone, and several congregations are planning to connect. So that's already posted on the conference website. It's in the handouts. We'll send it out again to everyone who's registered on Sunday morning. That open link will be available for the World Conference Dialogue and the worship. I will mention there at 10:30 when we break between the presentation and the worship, there will be an opportunity to complete the World Conference Prioritization Survey. It's something we've done for the last few conferences. The first presidency to ask for feedback from the membership on which items, and once you'll see the whole packet, you think are the most important to consider. And so that helps them decide where things go in the week of conference and how to plan time. So we will share that link at the end of the conference tomorrow. I know some people won't be coming back for Sunday. It'll be in the Mission Center announcements, and that survey will be open all next week. But we're hoping those of you who are joining us will take some time in that break to quickly fill that out after you've seen all of the legislation. Just to highlight again for worship, we'll be celebrating the sacrament of the Lord's Supper, so have bread and juice ready at your location. That morning's generous response will be dedicated to abolish poverty and suffering. So for any loose money received, our message will come from President Cram, and invite you to join us. That's the end of our slides. Are there any questions you have about the weekend? How you participate?
I don't know if it's about the weekend, the clarification, so I don't have to muck up procedures tomorrow. On the resolution, underneath, it says blah blah blah, but then it says instead amending take steps to reduce carbon and food choices and reduce waste. What are some, I mean, are you guys gonna have suggestions for how to reduce waste? I don't know that. Because to me, that's like throwing food away, right?
Yes, anybody from the team want to speak to that?
It's
So, yeah, the question was, what in the special committee's report, it says. This recommended substitute resolution addressed food waste as a major contributor of carbon emissions and removes language suggesting a plant-based diet as the desired outcome. The question then was, what might be some examples of how to reduce food waste?
So one of the things was just simply we throw away a lot of food, we overorder, when we were talking to directors from camp, it was a lot. Some of it was little stuff, like we thought we were getting one package of butter and we got 1 ton of butter or whatever. So some of it just simply modifying the order and reusing it and thinking about menus between camps, that kind of stuff. The other thing would be reducing waste through packaging, so buying bigger packages, things like that. That kind of. Some even going further, some have talked about, could we compost at some of our campgrounds, could we reuse stuff that way? Oh yeah, so partnering with organizations that could take the food afterwards, so extra things that, where could that go, we have things over.
So for those online, the examples about some possibilities for reducing food waste was looking at our purchasing, making sure that we are purchasing the right quantities and trying to look for bulk items that have less packaging if possible, coordinating across all of our camps in the summer for fresh produce and storage for dry goods, use them at another time. And then having a plan for how food not used and things that can't be saved would be disposed of, either donating when possible or composting instead of landfilling.
Yeah.
Anyone online have any further questions? Yes, just there's a comment there about speaking and hearing. Tomorrow we expect to be connected to the conference sound system. So you should be hearing directly from the mic. That would include the speaker. We will have a podium set up for those addressing the conference. And similar to last year, it'll be in the middle of the room and there'll be a sign to line up for those speaking for or against a motion, or line up in the middle if you have a question or different motion. And the chair always tries to alternate between for and against, if possible. The same online when you're speaking. When it comes to faith, the chair will ask that if you're in favor, you'll find the reaction that has a green check mark to be for or a red X to be against, and that allows the chair to see which side you're registering to speak on behalf of. Yes.
One clarification, you mentioned about not taking any food or drink in from the outside, like you can't bring a water bottle in or a cup of coffee or anything like that, right?
I don't know how strict they are about that. I think if you bring a water bottle, there would be no concern. I think a coffee in your mug would be no concern, but a purchased coffee, I don't think anyone's there looking. They're asking us not to bring in food to provide to everyone. So if you bring your own personal drink, I don't think anyone has any problem about that. I don't know that for sure, but in past years, no one's asked about that. So it's just not bringing in. As an event, we're not allowed to purchase, and set up another company's catering system or something like that. I think if you bring your own drink and use that, whatever that is, will be fine.
So you think I could bring in a bottle of water, even though it's not? Right? I mean, it's
Yes.
of my for-
Yes, a bottle of water, whether that's a reusable or purchase, there will be no problem with that. All right, let me check online, make sure there are no questions there. Don't see any. Any further questions tonight? Well, if there aren't, if you would just join me in a moment of prayer, I'll ask a blessing on our travels and rest for the evening for our gathering tomorrow. God, I lift up my thanks for the opportunity to be part of a faith community that engages in the process of common consent. Thank you for the blessings of community and the opportunity to experience the worth of all persons. I'd ask God that tonight you would bless each person with travel to their homes and hotels, locations they're at. Allow us each to find time for rest, relaxation, and grant us energy to come tomorrow ready to mingle, to laugh, to discern, and make decisions as a body to move forward in pursuit of Christ's mission. Amen. Thank you, everyone. Good evening.
Thank you. No, I didn't say yes to her.